In this video, we'll explore key list functions like map, group, unique by key, and select to understand how they work together in transforming and displaying data. We'll be using the Northwind Invoices and Shippers OData service as a data source. Additionally, we will leverage logical operators and comparison operators to implement dynamic functionalities using SAP Build. The final page of the application will look like how it is shown here. We will be choosing two drop-down values for shipper name and country, and based on these values, populate a list of products along with their price, calculate the total, and display the results in a pie chart. Optionally, we could show some highlights from the invoice data. By transforming data, it is essential to first understand the initial data and the desired output. Once that is clear, identifying the intermediate steps needed for the transformation becomes easier. Next step is to select the right formulas to execute these transactions. Here, you can see that the input data comes from the shipper's OData service and is a list of 3 objects. Using the map formula function, we transform this list to another list of objects with label and value as keys, as this is the data format required to create a dropdown. The values assigned to the label and value fields must be strings to ensure display and selection within the dropdown. Now let's go to SAP Build and start creating the application. As a part of initial setup, I have created two data variables, invoices1 and shipper1, and two page variables, selected shipper and selected country, with text as the variable type from the variables tab. I have also added two drop-down controls to the page. We can see how to use the shipper name and country data from the shipper and invoice data to show the drop-down values. The shipper's data is a straightforward one. It contains a list of 3 objects with shipper ID, company name, phone field, and we will be using the company name field in the dropdown. So it's simple and straightforward to create a dropdown with this data. Let's choose the binding icon on the option list field and change the binding type as formulas. In the formula field, we can type in our formulas. Since we want to transform a list to another list, we can use the map function to transform the data into the required format for the dropdown. Map function requires two input parameters. First is the list of suppliers, and the second input is the transformation formula. The list of suppliers is obtained from the data variable, which can be accessed by data.shippers1. The transformation formula should be of the type object, and since we want to create a list of objects with key as label and value for the dropdown, we should use label and value as the keys for this object. When we run this map function, as we loop through each object of the shipper's list data, each object will be stored in the variable item, and the company name can be accessed using item.companyname, which we will provide to the label and value fields. Let's save our changes and then map the selected value of the dropdown to the page variable selected shipper, so that whenever the selected dropdown value changes, the new value is stored in this page variable. To map the country dropdown, let's look at the invoices data. Since we are using this data to extract the list of countries to display in the second dropdown, we need to do more processing here to get the required format, as we only need one occurrence of each country to display in the dropdown. And we do not want any duplicates. Here we can use the group formula. Just like the map function, the first parameter to the group formula is a list of objects which is present in the data variable data.invoices1. We will then use item.country as the grouping criteria based on which we want to form a group. The third parameter is the grouping formula. And since we need an object with keys as label and value in order to display it in a dropdown, we'll provide key as the values which now contains the country name. We now can map the selected value of this dropdown to the page variable's selected country so that whenever the selected dropdown value changes, the new value is stored in this page variable. Now let's take a look at the preview of this app. We can see that the shipper name and the country name is displayed as expected. There are multiple ways to get the list of countries from the list of invoices. Here is another approach using unique by key and map. Unique by key formula works like this. If we give a list of objects to unique by key along with a specific key within the object, an array is returned with duplicates removed. The object with the first unique value is always picked, with the subsequent occurrences of the same value treated as duplicates and discarded. The map function then takes this array as input and apply the transformation formula. And since we want to create a list of objects with key as label and value, we have to provide item.country as the values for label and value. So you can define it in the same way like we did before. Now let's save our changes and take a look at the preview of this app to see if this formula combination works. You can see that the country dropdown is again populated with unique list of values. You can choose whichever formula is easiest for you to understand. You can also evaluate formulas based on performance when the list that you want to display is longer. There could be other formulas too that allow you to retrieve a list of countries without duplicate entries. Now, based on the value selected in the drop-down, let's filter the invoices list to display a product list. We have already set up the UI components required to display the list. Choose the text field and change the binding type to formula. Since we have to filter the list of invoices with two drop-down values from the repeat with field, let's use the select function from the list of functions. Provide the input list as data.invoices as it is a list that contains all the invoice objects. And in the filter condition, we can now compare the shipper name and country. Since the current object is stored in the variable item, we can access the shipper name and country using the dot notation and compare it with the page variable that contains the selected shipper and selected country which is coming from the drop down selection. Here we are using AND operator to check for two conditions. We are using comparison operator using double equal to check if two values are similar. If we want to check if value and the data type is same, we will use a triple equals operator. But in this case, double equal operator is good enough. Since we want to display the product name on the UI, for the content field, we have to choose the product name field. from the current value. We want to also calculate the total price of the products in a invoice for a specific product by multiplying the unit price with quantity. So we can choose again the repeat with field, change the binding type to formula, and we can use the same filter formula we used before, because we want to find the product price for the same list of products. And in the content field, we have to choose something different. So we go to the choose the binding type as formula and calculate the product of unit price and the quantity which is present in the repeated dot current variable. We can calculate the total cost of the list of products that are displayed in the filtered list by running a map function on the filtered list, and then multiply the product price and quantity, then run a sum function over it. So let's choose the binding type as formula. Use the same filter that criteria that we used before. Filter the list of products using the same criteria, that is match the drop down values of the country and the shipper name. Then we'll get a list of products. We will run a map function over it, and then to get on this filtered list, and then we get the product price and quantity of each of the item, and then on this array we will run a sum function to calculate the sum of price of all the products. Here we have to fix the page variable country as selected country is the name of the page variable and not just country. Let's save and preview the app. Once we choose the drop down values, the list below should be populated and the total is calculated based on the list of filtered products. Pie chart needs a list of objects with x and y as keys. The value of x should be a string and the value of y should be a number. Now let's display the above list of products and their distribution based on the price value in a pie chart. I have already installed a pie chart component from the marketplace and added to the canvas. Just like we did with the drop down, we can use a map function as we need a list of objects. To provide the above list, we can use the select condition so that it only filters the invoices matching both the shipper name and the country name from the selected drop downs. We can then provide the transformation formula with x and y values and provide item dot product name as the value of X, and for the value of Y, since it needs a number, you have to transform the unit price to a number, and then quantity to a number, and then multiply both of these numbers. Let's save and preview the app. When we change the drop down values and choose a shipper and a country, the pie chart should display with the product name, and it shows the distribution of the price based on the price of per product. In the next section, we can show some key insights from the invoice data based on the drop down selections. Let's see how to do that. Let's say, based on the shipper selected in the drop down, we now want to know how many invoices contain the same shipper name. We can write a formula for the content field. If you have watched the previous video in this series, you would know that we would use the plus symbol to concatenate a string and dynamic value. So we'll use that approach. Then we'll filter the data using the select function to match the shipper name, and use the count function to get the number of invoices. We know that the selected drop-down value is stored in the age variable selected shipper. Let's save our changes. Another insight that we could display is how many invoices have this same country as the one chosen in the second drop-down. To achieve this, we have to manage the country name from the invoices data, and with the country selected in the dropdown, which is stored in the base variable selected country. And once we get the filtered list, we can wrap it in the count function to get the number of invoices having the same country. And if you want to display the number of invoices that contain the same shipper name and the country, we would have to filter the invoices using both these criteria. To manage both these criteria, we have to use the AND operator in the select condition, and use the count function to get the number of invoices. Now let's save our changes and preview the app. Once we select the values from the shipper dropdown and country dropdown, number of invoices that contain United package as the shipper is 185. Number of invoices that contain country Switzerland as a country is 22. Number of invoices that contain United package as the shipper and Switzerland as a country is 8. If you found this format helpful to understand formulas, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Additionally, if there are any scenarios you have encountered for which you needed complex formulas or any other formula that you would like a detailed explanation for, I would be glad to help.